Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With me today is Chris Rossini, our co-host. Chris, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Great to be with you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. We want to talk today a little bit about a poll that was done. Sometimes polls are interesting, and sometimes they're just political bias. But this one's sort of interesting. CNBC. And I would say it's not such, exactly biased toward one candidate over the other. But they did this poll, and they were trying to find out how many people thought the candidates were mentally deficient, that they were are they fit to be president? And of course, this probably came out of the fact that there's been a lot of noise from the far left and the Democrats that Trump is not mentally fit. And so they've been playing this game, and I guess this poll was done to try to sort this out to see if the audience and the people who are going to vote really agree with that. It's interesting what happened when they did the polling, and a large number of people, they found out that neither candidate is considered mentally fit to be president. And the other strange thing that came out of it too was, but they think both of the candidates are physically fit to do it, which is interesting because both of them have been challenged for their physical abilities, and yet the people say no, that isn't it. But I think that it's very fascinating that it splits about even, so it's not a political issue. The country in general thinks, I guess if you're a Democrat, Trump is mentally deficient and vice versa. So I don't think this is the issue. This is just politics in an effort to avoid those problems we have in this country that both parties really support, and they don't have to deal with things like spending and the Federal Reserve and all of this stuff. So they can go and pick up on this and see if they can win elections by doing it. But I think there's a lot more to the election than that, but I don't think that the fact that people are going to start voting against Trump because they don't think he's mentally fit. But there's a lot of ways you can measure if you're mentally fit or not, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Chris, what do you have to think about this little poll they did?
Well, we take a different spin on it. We don't think anybody is mentally fit to do an impossible job. See, in America, the president wasn't meant to be an elected king or a Caesar, and for a long time he wasn't. But today he is both. He's expected to get involved in every tiny situation, whether it's take care of farmers or take care of seniors, take care of this group or that group. It's a never-ending carousel of people, take care of me. But that's only here in this country. Then there's take care of Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and put ships in South China Sea. No one is mentally fit for this job because it's a job that can't work. Empires always fail. The U.S. is now financially bankrupted. It's morally bankrupt. So this too shall pass. And Americans are going to have to once again adjust what they believe that the role of the president is.
One thing we have to be alert to is what governments do, the authoritarian type of governments do, and you have disagreement. And a lot of that is going on because they will describe somebody who disagrees as mentally defective. And we even hear about, the need to put these people in a mental institution. And that is what happened, in Nazism and communism, that we'll treat you, you're mentally ill. Once again, avoiding the real problems that they're facing. And this is not going to solve our problem. But I was thinking about who might claim they're mentally fit to make all these decisions, who should be president and how much they should do and all these things. But in some ways, there's just a lot of people that, if you wanted to think about it collectively, are mentally not fit to deal with that. And I think that was a point you were making in your first statement, because if you think about, for instance, the media, are they mentally fit to do what they do? All the demagoguing and the belief that they can pick and choose the president and nobody believes him. So I would say that'd be a hard job to try to figure out if the media is actually mentally fit for doing all this quizzing. I kept thinking about the people who get selected to ask the questions at presidential debates. Are they mentally fit, to do what they do? And it's a lot of demagoguing what happens there. But then again, I might ask the question, and we ask this all the time, are the university professors fit to make all these decisions of life and death, these decisions on economics and government power and all? But once again, it's that point you made, Chris, so well, is that government shouldn't even be involved in this. If universities, and they're private and they make mistakes, the market will take care of that. But university professors have a design. They are government schools, and just look at the public school system, how damaging that is. So we're not even developing people that are mentally fit, and I can use that loosely, mentally fit. Maybe this means that most of the voters aren't mentally fit to make the decision, and because it's an impossible task. How are you going to get anybody to run the country? I made a statement once that made it more than once, but I used it, and that is I wanted to be president for the things I don't want to do. Recognizing your point that we're not capable of doing. I wanted to be president because I don't want to run your life. I want to be president because I don't want to run the economy, and I don't want to run an empire. So that's all. Oh, that's all negative. We need something else. We need people who want to take over and do things and take care of the people. But I think real liberty is, in a way, a negative theme, in that governments should do nothing more than guaranteeing the right of people to make their own choices.
That's right, Dr. Paul, and that was one of your crowning moments when people loved it, because America is supposed to be about individual liberty. It's about you being you and me being me. You're supposed to, you'd want to pursue your own happiness as long as you don't harm the life, the liberty, and the property of others. You're not meant to be a cog in some grand delusion by some grand leader. That's what our American ancestors ran away from. That's what people from all over the world, why they came here. It's so that you can be whatever you want to be. And, but people today, they live vicariously through politicians. If you criticize a politician's, one of their policies, it's as if you're criticizing the person, not even the president. It's they try to live through others. And this is the exact opposite of what this country was meant to be. And we need to breathe a new life into the powerful idea. Right.
And these people now that are saying so-and-so is not mentally fit to be president, who decides that? There's some of them are still naive to think that the people decide all these things that go on. I happen to think the elections perform a function, but it's not as big a deal as people think it is. It's who controls the election and who counts the votes and who controls the universities and who really runs the deep state. For instance, Wall Street and the banking industry has, are they mentally fit to protect liberty? No, their mental desires and demands are to control the system to their benefits. The same way with Hollywood. Are they mentally fit to do the demagoguing and the propagandizing? Black Lives Matter and Antifa, all these organizations, are they? And they're the ones who are setting the standards and have the nerve to say that, maybe Trump is more unfit for presidency than Biden is. And again, the point that you make, Chris, is that it's not that it's that they can't do the job, so nobody is fit to do it, and that's why we should limit the goal of our government and our Constitution is to protecting that situation and where people make their own decisions, which will be imperfect, but we don't have these unfit people being in Washington, or we don't have all these unfit organizations that are determining who is going to go to Washington. So I think that there's a lack of understanding of what's really going on, because I think the fitness idea should, when I look at a candidate and talk to people, I want to know what their position is on liberty and what the Constitution is, but I want to know about what they think, what would be the consequence of a society you want with the economy, the value of the dollar, prosperity, the middle class, peace. All these things would come from the decision of of who you're going to believe is unfit or fit to do it, or are we really picking somebody that has a vague idea or a vague chance of really changing that, because it might be in a different atmosphere that we should be talking about if we want to change our system.
Dr. Paul, I'll finish up by saying, it wasn't always like this. Americans, the tradition was to think locally and act locally. The president cannot run your life or anyone else's. The only one he can run is his own. Just like you can't dictate. I don't know what my neighbor is doing now, what he's up to, or let alone someone in Iraq or in China. I can't tell other people how to live their lives, and neither can Washington or Brussels or Beijing or Silicon Valley. Nobody can choose and act for you in your local situation better than you. So most people live in a grand delusion, and we're just hoping to reel some people back to reality to live their own individual lives with liberty.
Right. And Chris, I want to refer to an article that was on Lou's site yesterday, written by Walter Williams, one of my favorite people. And he touched on this, really not so much on what exactly is in the news, but what is the problem with our country. And he makes a suggestion on what to do. And it's not the idea of taking a poll and find out from the general masses who's mentally fit and who isn't, which is absurd. But he says it has to do with the not the mental capacity of people doing this, but the problem that we face in this country today is spiritual poverty. There's no sense of virtue. The people are morally corrupt, and that isn't changed by this. So they drift over and they talk about mental status and IQ being important rather than the virtue of the people. And I think our founders talked about virtue too, and said, if there's not a virtuous people, you can't have a free society. And Walter makes that point so well, and I think that makes all the difference in the world, that we look at it that way rather than saying just another poll is going to solve our problem. Chris, do you have a closing statement?
No, just thank you everyone for watching. We're doing great. Our numbers are going up across the board. So hopefully we're giving you some good information that you can share with others.
Very, very good, Chris. And I want to thank our viewers for tuning in today, because this is a slightly different issue, but I think a very important issue, and that is the role of government. And this idea that we're directed toward predicting mental health and trying to describe it, and looking at people who decide this as mentally stable. That's where the real flaw comes from. People get together. So yes, people who don't like Trump and the people in Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they have mental superiority over Trump, and therefore they have to decide who's president. That's a stretch. That's really a stretch, and misses the whole point that Walter makes about it's the virtue of the people and what they expect from government and how they should treat people, and therefore we would have a completely different system. And I say we have a great opportunity to get this, reform done, because the one that we have now is crashing. Financially it's crashing, morally it's collapsing, and this one won't be maintained. But the big question is, will the people who want to radicalize this from the far left and give up totally on any constitutional restraints? That is the question. And I think that there's enough people out there that Americans will wake up. They have to wake up. They can't look at what's happening now. They can't put up much longer with the lockdown and the destruction of our kids in the school and all that nonsense that's going on, and not say enough is enough. And people, just like they're starting to say enough is enough, let's get rid of our mask, let's go and just be a free people, because there's been a lot of distortion of the facts and figures along with coronavirus and the lockdown. So that's an opportunity, rather than looking at it, well, this is the end of our system. But it will take an effort on our part to define the message, define the principles of liberty, and encourage everybody to participate, and that is what I do. I encourage all our viewers and participants and supporters to contribute to this by spreading the message of liberty. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.